Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal EMac coming to you with Greg Ehrenberg as we get ready for what is this, a Thursday slate? So happy it's Thursday. We've got getaway days. We've got a 3-game early slate involving a doubleheader. We've got a 6-game main slate that's early. And then I think we have something around in the 8 o'clock hour, Greg. I can't remember what. Oh, yeah, NFL.
Soccer? Oh yeah, NFL. Yeah, that. I was thinking soccer, but yeah, football that starts.
Well, you're close. It is football, American football, but there we are. So we've got content literally all day. We've got in the can. You'll be able to get some MMA and PGA stuff. PGA, of course, starts on Thursday, but we have that already on the YouTube channel if you're listening to this early or late on Wednesday night. We also will have several NFL shows, and then through the weekend, tons of NFL shows. We're still going to be doing a little bit of basketball. Those will probably be like a half-hour show before lock, now that it looks like we're mostly down to single games or single-day games, depending on what happens here with Toronto and Boston. As we are speaking, they're still finishing up that game. And then baseball, no baseball on Sundays, but we will still have all of our premium content as well as a couple articles. But all eyes are going to be on the NFL. And last year we saw that Yahoo and FanDuel didn't even post, or sorry, not FanDuel, Fantasy Draft, which is now part of Monkey Knife Fight, I believe. They didn't even post Sunday baseball contests. And DraftKings and FanDuel combined went down to less than $200,000 for their full guaranteed prize pool. So we will have projections, the starting lineups, all that stuff, but we just won't have any shows. But we're going to have 3 hours, count them, 1, 2, 3 hours of NFL content leading into lock. And then we will do live before lock for Sunday Night Football as well as Monday Night Football. Look at that, guys. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. You're going to want to know when we are going live. It is going to be early and often. Greg, we've got a little bit of fun here. We've got some early action. Let's pull that on up. I got too many windows up here. I'm traveling, so my usual setup is... A lot of my usual setup came with me. I brought an extra monitor, brought the microphone, the good camera, all that stuff, but it's still not the same desk. That's an issue. But 6 pitchers here on our early slate. I'm just looking at DraftKings. They're going with their traditional start 2 pitchers, so it's normal pricing. A lot of times when it's 3 games or less, they go with their different formats, but this is their more classic, as they call it. We have Dylan Bundy at Texas. Likely that the roof is closed. He will be facing Kyle Gibson. We've got Jack Flaherty going against Detroit. Detroit is countering with Tariq Skubal. And then Sean Manaea and Jose Urquidy will be squaring off in the other game. That Detroit-St. Louis game is going to be game 1 of a doubleheader. That does not impact our pitchers in particular, but it does mean you'll want to keep an eye on the bats. Of that stable of half a dozen plays, does anything stand out for you other than this will be Jose Urquidy's second appearance? He was dealing with the coronavirus himself for most of the season.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned that it's the Cardinals-Tigers game that's going to be played as a doubleheader. One thing that makes it pretty interesting about Jack Flaherty, the Tigers are one of the worst teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. And Flaherty at 8,900, let's say if he makes it through the 7 innings, which isn't that crazy to think in a plus matchup against the Tigers, even though he's only done it once so far this year, he's going to get the complete game bonus. So I actually think the 7-inning nature helps Flaherty, even though we generally have said that we want to kind of avoid the 7-inning games in general. It's kind of hard to totally avoid them when there's only 3 games on the slate. But with that said, for the pitchers in this particular instance, I think it helps Flaherty, and maybe it's like a quarter of a point more that he'd add to his projection or something like that.
Yeah, and when you're looking for any edge possible, that's definitely it. We've seen, I think there's been a couple guys that have gotten the complete game in the 7-inning versions, and then of course we saw Nationals rainout game where Scherzer got it in the loss, and I forget who he was going against, but both pitchers ended up getting complete games, even though they just went 6 innings.
So it was Garrett Cole versus Max Scherzer on opening night in the rain game, where both of them ended up being really good because they got the whatever it is 2.5 point complete game bonus.
Always crazy. There, you do this long enough, and you see all sorts of craziness. Dylan Bundy probably be the main guy we're looking at. He's 9,800. He's still since beginning of 2018, leads the league in home runs allowed, but he has been great this year. People are catching him. It won't be long before I will have to stop saying that about him. He has actually gone his last 3 starts without allowing a home run, and he has allowed just 4 in 50 innings this year, which would be phenomenal. That would prorate out to about 17 over a normal season where a pitcher gets about 200 innings, which would be half of what he has had the last few years. So he has definitely changed things, or his fortunes have changed dramatically, getting out of the AL East and having to deal with those small ballparks and the Yankees and Boston and Toronto constantly. If we're looking for a cheapie there, how do you feel about Manaea? He's been a good pitcher, working his way back from injury. Tough matchup because he is going against Houston and he's a lefty. This will be just the first time he has faced them this year. He's gone 64, 86, 74, and 78 pitches in his last few starts. Do you feel that's worthwhile at 7,600? And that's about all I got left of these pitchers.
I'd rather find the extra space to get up to Flaherty. And I mean, the issue with Manaea is he just generally hasn't pitched all that well this year. 5.09 ERA, like you said, coming back from shoulder surgery. And shoulder surgery isn't like Tommy John surgery. A lot of pitchers come back from Tommy John surgery and are just fine. Shoulder surgery is still a lot more iffy. We don't really have quite as many instances of pitchers coming back successfully from that. And if you look at the velocity from Manaea, it is down a little bit from where he was at earlier in his career. When he first broke into the big leagues, 92.3 mile per hour fastball velocity, and 91.6 in his first full season, and only 90.4 so far this year. So it looks like he may have lost a little bit of velocity from the injury. That's a little bit of a concern, especially when you combine that with just the dip in performance. Because like you said, he used to be really good. So I'd actually be more inclined to play the Houston side of this game than I would be roster Manaea.
All right, and if you go Bundy and Manaea, and then go for a cheap catcher in that 33 to 3,500 range, like a Sean Murphy, and a 33 to $3,500 outfielder, like in this case Victor Reyes, Robbie Grossman, Tyler O'Neill, you'll still have 4,300 for the remaining positions on DK. So for your last 6 spots, you can go up for real decent players. So it is definitely possible to work out some good lineups there, even on the short slate, and get in both of the top pitchers. We'll go game by game as we get onto our main slate here. Over to it. Reminder, it is going to start at 6:40. There will be 6 games, and it looks like none of them involve double headers. So our first game, Greg, we've got Jake Arrieta going against Sandy Alcantara. No, it's not Alcantara. It's actually Alcantara. What do you want to do here with this pair of pitchers?
I don't have much interest in Jake Arrieta. I know that he has a little bit of name value, and people see the matchup against the Marlins and assume that's a spot you want to attack. But Arrieta's kind of been washed for the last couple of years now. He is coming off his best outing of the season by far, but still overall for the season, just 25 strikeouts in 33 innings. He has a 5.67 ERA. The Marlins have actually put up some kind of decent offensive performances lately. I think that they don't make for a bad stack, which I assume is going to be contrarian because, who usually gravitates towards rostering the Marlins. But I think this is an okay spot for them. As for Alcantara, he's pitched reasonably decent this year. He has a 3.78 ERA, 17 strikeouts in 16 innings. It's a little bit of a concern that we haven't seen very much of him this year. So we're dealing with a small sample size, and it is a tough matchup for him against the Phillies. But at a 6,600 price tag, I think that he's worth looking at as an SP2.
All right, on to our next game here. We have a couple of unknowns for different reasons. Josh Fleming will be making his fourth start here for Tampa Bay. He has started the August 29th and the 23rd. It must have been on slates where I don't remember him, or they were some sub-slates, because I only can think of him having one start, but he's at 5,900. That's a very interesting price point, even going against Boston. This one is in Tropicana Field. On the other side, you have Mike Kickham. Mike Kickham is rather interesting. He is, I want to say 30, I'm going off memory, 31 or 32. He has still qualifies as a rookie because he has less than the minimum. I think it's 35 innings for his career thus far. This is the 3rd season He has been up in the show. Basically, he is the Crash Davis of pitchers.
Yeah, 3-year rookie is pretty impressive. This is like it's like
and
the
in his
super red shirt.
30s. In his
Yeah,
30s.
it's like the Van Wilder of baseball. He's just a freshman forever. The issue I have with both these pitchers is just pitch count. Like, I don't know how deep either of them are going to work into the game. Kickham, he's in 2 starts this year, 48 and 44 pitches. So it's hard for me to expect that he's going to throw more than, 3 innings or so in this game. So that kind of takes him out of consideration for me. And then with Fleming, he also has pitch count concerns. His 3 outings, 72, 74, and 73 pitches. And he just doesn't get strikeouts, 6.46 strikeouts per 9 innings. And if you go back through all his minor league numbers, he struck out under 7 hitters per 9 innings every single year in the minor leagues. And not really all that great of numbers in the minors overall. In limited sample size in AAA last year, he had a 5.14 ERA and a 7.1 FIP. The year before in A-ball, a 4.11 ERA. Fleming, to me, just doesn't seem like he's big league caliber. I think he's probably, just a fringe guy. I think the best way to describe him is I label these guys as quadruple A pitchers, like somewhere in between AAA and the major leagues. And it's a guy who I don't really want to roster. The Red Sox offense hasn't been very good this year, so it's hard to be really confident in them, but I would prefer their side of the game to Fleming.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I'm just keeping Fleming on the short list because we're running out of pitchers. We only have 12. Yeah. We've already waived off 3 of them, so by default, he's going to land there. The other thing that's making his numbers look sort of decent, he's got the win in every game. We really shouldn't expect that either. Although Tampa Bay could be team of destiny this year. We do have a little bit of weather here in the next game. That is New York. We have Garrett Cole coming in at just 10,300 going against Baltimore. They have Keegan Aiken taking the mound on the other side. This will be Aiken's 5th appearance, his 3rd start. He has been reasonably good. He went 91 and 81 pitches in his last 2 starts, so we know he's mostly stretched out. Tough matchup still going against the Yankees, even though it's their understudies with Stanton and Judge still on the shelf, but he's worthy of consideration. Garrett Cole, on the other hand, he only allowed 1 home run in his last game. That's a good thing. He has 13 in 52 innings, so he is on pace right now for almost 60 home runs allowed. That would be the most ever allowed by about 8 in baseball history if we were playing a full season. He's very lucky it's not a full season.
Yes. So one thing that's kind of interesting about that is the other thing also talking about the Yankees pitching staff is Garrett Cole's been a little disappointing this year. Still good for DFS because he gets a ton of strikeouts.
70 in 52 innings. Can you believe that?
If you want to go for a really contrarian stack on this slate, and I'll be making some of them, assuming the weather's fine, the Baltimore Orioles, because like you said, when Garrett Cole isn't pitching well, he's giving up home runs. There was a point in time where you just didn't want to stack against the Yankees because even if they had a like average to below average starting pitcher on the mound, they had such a good bullpen behind all their pitchers. The Yankees bullpen is not very good this year. We've seen a number of guys get lit up, and it really started to fall apart once Tommy Kahnle earlier in the year got hurt and was ruled out for the season, and then the Yankees bullpen just kind of started to come unraveled after that. So Garrett Cole is still overall my favorite starting pitcher target on the slate. But if you're playing 150 lineups like I do, I'm going to be building some Orioles stacks also because nobody's going to be on them because I expect Garrett Cole to be massively popular. And just if he doesn't pitch well, what happens is he gives up home runs. That's how he gives up his runs. That's what we like for fantasy. So I think there is a little bit of reason to like the Orioles as a super contrarian stack. And they're also really inexpensive.
All right. Do you have anything here on Keegan Aiken that you want to point out?
Let me bring up his numbers.
Other than
really
cheap,
quick.
And we're going to get about 80, probably 85 pitches feels like a nice median outcome. At 6,700, there's value in that on the 2-pitcher side.
He does appear to have strikeout upside. I mean, if we look at his numbers this year, he's striking out 10.38 hitters per 9 innings. The walks are a huge issue. But in the minor leagues last year, he also struck out 10.5 hitters per 9 innings. Walks were an issue. He seems like a guy who maybe like a poor man's Robbie Ray, like good Robbie Ray. I mean, not this year's Robbie Ray. There's no version of poor man's Robbie Ray this year. That I don't even know what that would look like. That's walking literally every single hitter. But if you look at like Aiken's minor league numbers, 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, a guy who regularly walked 4+ hitters per 9 innings. There could be utility in that as a cheap guy on a small slate as an SP2. Not somebody to be overly confident in playing against the Yankees, but if he's a pitcher who ends up coming in, projected for like 5% or less ownership, I think he's worth throwing into a few lineups just because he's pitched reasonably decent this year and he gets strikeouts.
Yeah, on Yahoo's sponsor side, it's going to be a little bit interesting. Let's talk about their pitching for a moment here. You've got Garrett Cole up at the top. He's 53. We've got Sonny Gray going against the Cubs. He's 45. Aaron Savale going against KC. He's 42. Sandy Alcantara is 40 going against Philly. Dustin May put a short pin in that one. He's 38. We're still waiting for the strikeouts to show up, but he's going to go against Arizona, who's not great. The roof will be open in that one. Then we're at Keegan Aiken at 35 and Josh Fleming at 35. Not a lot of deals there. And then you get down to Chris Paddock, who we'll talk about in a bit, but he is going to be the most popular pitcher at $33 on Yahoo. He's struggled in his last couple of, well, I don't know that struggles, right? Yeah, I guess when you give up 10 runs in 3 appearances, that's pretty bad. He's on the every other outing, so this should be a good one for him. Hashtag analysis. But just kind of looking at the pricing over there since they're sponsoring our gig, I wanted to let you guys know that they start again tomorrow at 6:05 for their contest. They've got the Atlanta and Washington game that they are including there, so pay attention to that one. And if you make lineups, be sure to pick some in the later games just in case you forget, and go on over there and people are locked if you have not been paying attention to that one. Back to our game by game matchups here. I've got too many windows open. On to the next one. It's the Sonny Gray and Adbert Alzolay. Alzolay is 7,700, so not a discount dandy. He has gone 78 pitches and 20 pitches in his last 2 outings, 70 in the one before. So he is stretched out, but he has a grand total of 9 innings in those 3 starts. That's not very good, including 2.2 in that 78 pitch outing. Yikes. I don't know what to do with this one. I guess let's talk about Sonny Gray coming off a disastrous beatdown by the Redbirds. He lasted 2 outs, gave up 6 earned runs, no home runs. Literally everybody that got on scored. 8 walks, 5 hits, 6 guys came around. Can Sonny Gray shake this one off?
It's definitely a little concerning how he looked last start, especially because there were some red flags coming in. Even though he hadn't really given up runs in his last 2 starts before that, his strikeouts were down and his walks were up. So I'm not exactly sure what to make of that, other than he's probably dealing with some sort of mechanical issue, or maybe there's some sort of slight underlying injury, because Sonny Gray was terrific at the start of the season. I mean, he was pretty regularly, look at his strikeout to walk numbers. 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, 2 walks. And in the last 3 starts, it's 6 strikeouts, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, 3 walks. So I look at that, and I think there's reason to think there's upside in Sonny Gray, obviously, if he gets back to his form from earlier in the season. But given how he's pitched his last few starts, I'm probably going to be underweight to the field, and probably in a significant way. I'd much rather pay up the $600 for Garrett Cole. The question becomes then, as I look at the pitchers on this slate, and I make a few contrarian Orioles stacks, and it's who are you going to spend pitchers in those lineups? Who are the pitchers in those lineups? And that's really what I'm looking at. And it kind of has to be Sonny Gray and Chris Paddock, I guess, because we'll talk about Dustin May in a little bit. I'm not really thrilled about rostering Dustin May at 8,800. But I'll at least say of the top options, it's Cole 1 for me, Paddock 2, and Sonny Gray is a distant 3rd.
All right, we've got 4 left. That's pitchers, not games, just 2 games. Looks like Drew Smiley is going to come off the injured list here to make the start against San Diego. He's been dealing with, a strained left index finger. He is a lefty, so that would be his pointer finger on his throwing hand. He has been out since August 1st was the last time he made an appearance, so that's just over a month. He does get to go against San Diego, which is not a good thing. They have a ton of righty power. I'm not feeling great about him. Chris Paddock on the other side, Kind of mentioned that he got knocked around a little bit there by Oakland. Seattle got to him. Somehow he survived in Coors Field. He had a nice start against Texas. I'm going to count on the underlying talent right off those others, and we're not paying a huge premium on him. He's 8,300. He's probably, a $7,500 pitcher in this spot, but I'll take it. We've already mentioned there aren't that many other guys to go to here. So how are you feeling about Paddock? Do you have any trust at all in Drew Smiley?
Drew Smiley, no, for two reasons. Number one, I just don't think he's particularly good even when he's healthy. And then number two, it's just really hard to trust a pitcher whenever they're coming off the injured list, either because pitch count concerns or you just wonder about them, kind of being out of rhythm after not pitching for a while. And also, the matchup is just ridiculously hard. He's going up against Slam Diego. I think that the most likely outcome here is that.
Did you say Slam Diego?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
I know. I'm glad you're on board with that.
Yeah, I have. That's my bet to win the World Series this year. I have the Padres at 35-1, so I'm pretty invested in them. I was very excited about the Clevenger trade for that reason, and maybe it's a little bit of bias to me from me also hoping that Chris Paddock gets on track. But I do think that he's one of the most talented young pitchers in baseball. He's terrific stuff. He has been a little bit inconsistent this year, like you said. I don't buy into this will be a good start just because he's gone. Every other start has been good. He's also faced a very difficult strength of schedule. Recent starts where he's gone poorly, it was at Oakland. The Seattle start, that's pretty easy. Then beyond that, he's pitched against the Dodgers twice also. He pitched in Coors Field. So I give him a little bit of a pass for some of those results. Overall, though, like you said, I'm going to believe in the talent of Chris Paddock. The 8,300 price tag is reasonable. It's a favorable matchup against the Giants. Given the price and the other options on the slate, I think Paddock's a strong play.
All right, that's going to take us to our final game of the night here. Dustin May, we'll save him for last. Let's talk about Madison Bumgarner. Bumgarner has been awful this year. 9 home runs allowed in 21 innings. That would be on pace to allow, about 90 for the
Welcome
season.
to the best day of the year.
No bueno. His
Draft day.
last 3 games, he's given up 2, 4, and 2 home runs. He has... has given up basically about the same number as walks and strikeouts in those games, which is not good. 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. There is nothing redeeming here about Bumgarner. I can't even say the price or the matchup against a team that is loaded for bear against any pitchers. I don't want Bumgarner. Do you have anything nice to say about Bumgarner? And what is the cautionary tale with Dustin May? The ginger hammer.
So the one thing positive I'll say about Madison Bumgarner is he's just been a print factory for me this year. I've made so much money betting against him in starts just because the market didn't adjust to him. And I wish he didn't get hurt because it was just like free money to bet money lines against the Diamondbacks when he was starting earlier in the year, because not only was Bumgarner bad, the offense was terrible, and the Diamondbacks were favored in games where he was pitching. I think the most egregious one was there was a Diamondbacks at Rangers game where Lance Lynn was on the mound against Madison Bumgarner, and the Rangers were underdogs for that game. And that's just kind of how the market's generally viewed Bumgarner. Not anymore. Now it's kind of adjusted to Madison Bumgarner appears to be on the tail end of his career. And by the way,
that was Bumgarner's best start of the year too. And they lost 7-4.
Yeah. The other thing too is that contract he signed is awful. The Diamondbacks signed him to was like a 5-year, $85 million deal. That's easily the worst contract that was handed out in the offseason. So the Dodgers are going to be my favorite stack on the slate. I think that also Bumgarner still has enough name value to where people might not want to stack against him. But I think the Dodgers should have no problem.
Quick, make your pick.
Bumgarner's velocity is also way down. I mean, he's struggling to throw like 85 miles per hour at this point in his career.
Hey, that's 1 mile per hour for $1 million in his contract. 5-year, $85 million contract. I just looked it up.
Let me look up his exact velocity numbers because I haven't looked at them in a second since he came back from the disabled list. But that was also something that really stood out to me. And it's also, I mean, he's older. He's had some injuries.
He's 31. It's not like he's ancient.
But it's not just that he's 31. It's that he pitched in the World Series when he was like 19 or something like that, if you remember. So he's logged a lot of miles in the major leagues. And he was in that motorcycle accident where he injured his shoulder. And to me, he was never quite the same after that. I think that was kind of the turning point for him. He spent like half that season on the DL or something like that, if I remember correctly. And then his velocity was slightly down when he returned, and it never came back. And of course, the page isn't pulling up on Brooks Baseball, so whatever. But the point is, Madison Bumgarner, I'm not exactly sure what his velocity is the last couple starts, but it's way down from when he was peak Bumgarner. He throws the ball well below 90 miles per hour now. I actually think in his first 3 starts, he didn't throw a single pitch over 89. I don't think he might not have even touched 90 once this entire season yet. So that's all a big concern, especially with the injuries he's dealt with. Load up on the Dodgers, and then we can talk about Dustin May, who is a great prospect that just cannot seem to generate swing and misses.
Why does he seems like he's going to be a strikeout guy, and it's not happening. Because you've seen, and I can't remember if it was you and I talked about this. It probably was us. It could have been with Adam, talking about the pitching ninja. What is it? The Twitter feed that he would put up all these cool ones of him just with these insane breaking balls and stuff. How is he not striking everybody out? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a concern, and something has to give because he only has a 2.88 ERA, but he's a 4.51 FIP. So
what's his strand rate?
It is 88%.
So it's about 15% higher than normal.
So it's just kind of this weird thing where he has good enough stuff where he's kind of limiting hard contact enough, except he's a 7.9% swing strike rate. That is ridiculously low. So I don't know if he's tipping his pitches, but there's something going on here where as good as his stuff is, it's not leading to strikeouts or swing and misses in the big leagues at this point. So I tend to think he's just not quite ready for the major league level. The other thing is the Diamondbacks offense is garbage. So what happens here, right? Is this finally where Dustin May, the regression monster, gets to him and he finally starts to give up a little bit more runs, which I kind of think is coming at some point. I'm just not sure if this is the matchup for it. For DFS, I can't consider him at 8,800 because he just doesn't get enough strikeouts, and Chris Paddock's cheaper than him. I'd rather find the space to go up to Garrett Cole.
They had their eye on him too.
I think the other thing that's kind of interesting here is the Diamondbacks, I think, are going to be a very contrarian stack that makes sense. Like I'm going to put them in the same basket as the Orioles, although I have more interest in the Diamondbacks than the Orioles because, like I said before, if you roster the Orioles, I just don't know who I'm going to at pitcher. Because I don't want to roster Dustin May either.
And they had their eye on him too.
Sonny Gray. At least if I roster contrarian stacks of the Diamondbacks, I could roster Chris Paddock and Garrett Cole, who are my 2 favorite pitchers on the slate. So if I'm looking to be contrarian in GPPs, I think that's the route I'm going. If you want to be chalkier in GPPs, I'm actually not sure who the popular offense on the slate is going to be. The Yankees, maybe. Maybe it will be the Dodgers going up against Bumgarner. That's why we'll have to use the top stacks tool on Awesemo.com.
Because they had their eye on him too.
Figure out where the ownership lies. But I think there is reason to like the Diamondbacks, and I'm pretty confident they're going to be contrarian.
All right. Reminder: we do have Yahoo sponsoring this show. So for Yahoo NFL, they have the $500,000 baller, $100,000 first, 150 max, 12.3% management fee. That's their version of rake. Let's see, 150 max. They do have CSV edit and upload, so that's nice. And this one is going to be a lot of fun. I suspect it won't get over 80% filled, and that's something you can utilize to your advantage. Pay attention to where the overlay ends up on week 1. We know that it's going to be there, so you want to make sure you are there as well. With that, you could follow Greg over there on Twitter. Give us your Twitter handle.
G. Ehrenberg DFS.
I am at EMac DFS, and of course, it is Awesemo _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.